Acapulco, Mexico. This is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I've got a great guest coming on, a first-time guest. We actually couldn't have him on for the last 31 months because he was in jail in Canada, which is actually fairly common for Anarchast guests. They're either in jail or out of jail or on probation or all those sort of things, and none of them have ever hurt anybody. I wouldn't really have them on the show. Actually, I wouldn't have them on the show. Of course I wouldn't, unless they totally made up for what they did at least. But none of these people have ever done anything to anybody, and that's sort of common for our guests. They don't aggress against other people, but they still end up being aggressed against. And it's Dean Clifford, for people who I'm sure a lot of people out there already know who he is. He's quite popular, especially in Canada. He's actually been called a number of things, and I think he wants to clarify a lot of that on this interview. He's been called things like a sovereign man, a sovereign citizen, one of those free man sort of things. He actually doesn't call himself that, and he wants to clarify that. But as I pointed out, he has been in jail for the last 3 years. He just got out, so this is the world exclusive first interview with Dean Clifford. Happy to have you on, Dean, and happy to see that you're semi-free. You're still in Canada, so you're not totally free, but a lot freer than you were for the last 31 months. But before we get started, I got to ask you, how did you become an anarchist?
The exclusive first interview from Communist Canada. Welcome, everybody. Well, actually, I'll give you a little more condensed version than what I just did previously there. But if I could sum it all up, I'd say that back in 1996, when I was still in university, or I think I had just finished my second or third year, I started a construction company here in Canada. And back then, I still thought that I was a tax-paying public citizen, and that quickly led to my first altercation with Canada Revenue Agency, where in my first business year, because I think I started my company in like November or something like that, and I made $8,000 gross. I don't think I even profited that year. I filed an income tax return, and I got a $26,000 tax bill for taxes due. And that led to, a 3 or 4 year battle with Canada Revenue Agency with a bunch of people that would never see reason or wouldn't even be reasonable, and led to my bank accounts being frozen, properties being liened, attacks in everything they could possibly do in my life, calling family members. I think they actually phoned my grandmother and threatened my grandmother and told her if I didn't pay my taxes, I was going to jail. All sorts of weird stuff started happening. And I wondered, I remember thinking to myself, how can this be? How can this be in a country where we're supposed to be free? And, these people won't even talk to me. They're telling me I have to prove I don't owe them $26,000. And back then I knew nothing about law, but I knew enough that I shouldn't have to prove I didn't do something, just because they say I owe a tax bill. But either way, so after 4 or 5 years of that, I finally got my first computer in 2001 and started looking up things online, and I came across my first website for this stuff, and it was Detax Canada by Eldon Warman, and that's when I learned what the corporate citizen was, and I started learning all about these big scams that are going on all over the planet with these corporate governments, and they're not really our governments, and of course the legal person and everything else. And so it's been a very long road now of learning, where in a society where there's very little information out there about what's going on, because it's been so hidden and so manipulated by the powers that were to keep us uneducated and ignorant. And but it was my first battle with Canada Revenue Agency that led me to despise and loathe what I thought to be this government that we're supposed to be proud of, and this country we're supposed to be proud of. So at first my battle was just okay, well I'm gonna fight and take you guys down. I'm gonna wake up everybody to what's going on, and of course that's progressed over the last 15 years now to wanting to educate people on how to use the tool that is government better, and just to realize who we are and what our real power is, so that we can actually get some change going on in the world here. And that's kind of where we're at today.
That's great. So glad to hear you're trying to get rid of the government the same as I am. But one of the questions when I first contacted you was I wanted to make sure that you were on the same wavelength as we are here at Anarchast. So I asked if you were an anarchist, and you said, well, what exactly do you mean? And I said, well, generally you don't like the government. And you said, well, define government. So you have a lot of interesting views on all that. So why don't you tell us your views on things like that?
Well, I think going back a few years, people used to say, oh, well, you support anarchy. You don't want there to be any government. And I looked up the definition of the word anarchy, because people never really actually do any research. They just assume that, what they've heard about things are the truth. And it turned out that the word anarchy meant a complete absence of government, where people govern themselves in accordance with morality and mutual respect. like self-respect for one another. Love thy neighbor. Almost kind of sounds biblical. But really, so that is a form of government in itself, where people choose to govern themselves in accordance with morality and mutual respect for their fellow man, for their fellow brother. So do I believe in corporate governments and everything else? Well, I mean, not in its present form, no. I would definitely choose anarchy over that, which is, again, just having a complete absence of these corporate governments and the rules and regulations that they are benefiting from themselves, in exchange for a system where we govern ourselves and deal with our own brothers in a morally responsible way with mutual respect for one another. It doesn't sound so terrible.
No, it doesn't sound terrible at all. That sounds great. So what exactly, I know you don't like being called necessarily a sovereign man or a sovereign citizen or a freeman. What is it that's, like you were telling me earlier, that you have certain beliefs about what the government actually is, and you've said it a few times already on this interview that you call it a corporate government. So what is it, like, tell us a bit more about your beliefs on these sort of things.
Well, when it comes to the words that they're trying to use, I mean, they're really trying to slander people, to make them sound like they're idiots, or we're some kind of something to be ridiculed or mocked, or those free man types. And it's like, well, why is free man? Why has that word become such a derogatory thing in the first place? Since when did a man being free become a bad thing or something to be ridiculed or mocked? I mean, I don't get that either. The fact that they've been able to brainwash the general public into believing that anybody that claims to be a free man is something terrorist in nature, when we're all supposed to be free as men. So I don't really get that. I don't really call myself that. It really doesn't matter if somebody does call me that. I mean, am I going to be offended? And I've said that to people before, even corrections officers in the jail. They're like, "Oh, you're one of those free man guys." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, you're one of those slave man guys." Like, it's stupid, right? To call somebody a free man, that's supposed to be something that's just inherent. But I'd say sovereign citizen would be another word that's these terms that they make up to try to label us. And no, there's Darren in the background. Oh, hang on.
Just read that right now.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, and we can get into the Bible. Yeah, I know it refers to free men quite exclusively throughout that book, but sovereign citizen is another one, because people don't understand there's different types of citizens. There's public citizens and there's private citizens, and they're trying to redirect us away from that because they don't want us getting into that whole public citizen versus private citizen issue, and they want us instead saying we're sovereigns or we're sovereign citizens, which still is not addressing the proper issue, which is, are you a member of their public society, or are you a private individual with your private rights and freedoms restored to you? So a lot of these things are distractions, and they especially want us to fight with each other over this kind of stuff, because then we're not concentrating on the real problem, which is them stealing our rights and our freedoms by getting us to pledge our lives to one of their little, they call it a public society, a democracy, but it's not. It's actually a private society where you have forfeited all rights and property to the state, and you're now a propertyless individual. You're insolvent, and that's why you have no rights. So they don't want us to talk about that. They want us to get into name calling and mudslinging and have the general public ridicule us because we're idiots.
Yeah, it's funny how they call a free man's a derogatory term. Truther is also a derogatory term. It's like, oh, you want to know the truth? You're crazy.
Well, yeah. Since when did the truth become a bad thing? Oh, you're one of those people that likes the truth, eh? Well, don't interrupt my lies. I like my lies. I like my illusions.
Yeah, totally. Are you? I'm trying to gauge where you're at on your beliefs. Are you one of these people who believe like your birth certificate is sort of like you're selling yourself into their ownership, and that? Are you one of those people as well? Like, I'm just curious. I don't have any real views on it. That if your name's in all capitals, it means something different than it's not. Is that something that you believe?
Well, that's not so much. It's not something that I believe. It's actually something that that we've seen the actual proofs of. And again, all you have to do is read through the Vital Statistics Act in Manitoba. I think it's like sections 39 through 42. There's a part of the Vital Statistics Act, which of course is the organization Vital Statistics, which issues the birth certificate. And it says right in there, the birth certificate is not personal ID. It is proof that an organization was organized. And that's what a corporation is an organization. So it actually comes right out and tells you that the birth certificate is proof of a state organization that has a similar name to that of your own. So you're duped into this whole alter world your entire life, and we've clued into this now, and now we're figuring out what to do about all this. And like I say, it's not my belief, it's what they're actually telling you in their own acts and statutes. So it's pretty much a fact that document is proof that the state created an organization with a similar name as your birth name, and then they basically like overlap that over your entire life to make it look like everything you said and did in your life was done as an actor or an agent for this state organization. So that's just a fact. That's not even my belief. That's just the proof is right there. People just have to go look it up on their own. Instead of calling us crazy, just go do a little bit of research and look at what we're actually telling you, because you'll find out it's true.
Yeah, I'm not calling you crazy at all. I've heard these things, and I've heard different opinions on it, and I'm not sure what to think. I haven't done a ton of my own research on it, but I am very curious about it. So are you one of those people as well that will go into court and say that, I actually don't even know how to describe it. I've seen some people talk about this. They'll come in and say, I am this person, but I'm not this person in all capitals, and that sort of thing. Like, are you doing those sort of things?
Yeah, it's a little bit different than that, especially once you start to understand the concepts at play here. But that was one of the earlier first things that I ever did, was when I walked into court and I realized there's a difference between the two off of other people's teachings that we've pursued and followed a little bit further up with. And I would walk into court and say, yeah, I'm here for that matter, but I'm not acting as agent or surety for that legal person, right? And back then, when this wasn't too well known publicly, especially on the internet, and the people at the courts, especially the higher up people, know exactly what we're talking about, and some of the lower ones don't. We'd have sheriffs and some crown attorneys laughing at us, but we'd have other people that would shit their pants. Like we'd have like people start running around with their head, and they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? And we'd explain, well, I know that the birth certificate, I know that legal person is a state organization, and I'm not a party to it. I was forced to be here. And if I didn't show up here, people would beat me and arrest me. And then next time I'd be here in chains. That's the only reason I'm here. This is all against my will. They'd flip out, and all of a sudden your charges would be disappearing, and they don't want to talk about that at all. And every time that happens, things like that just reinforces in my mind, okay, well, we must be on the right path, because they do not want to talk about this stuff. And anytime somebody does not want to talk about stuff, it means they're hiding things and they're full of shit. And so I don't go any further than that until we get some straight answers. And it turns out that that's exactly the case. So yeah, it's not crazy that they try to make it sound like we're crazy, that they don't think they're persons, and that, again, it's the whole mocking and ridiculing us to try to distract us from the fact that, well, yeah, like a legal person is an artificial person. Well, I'm quite real. So why is it I'm recognized as an artificial person in court? Like, why don't we talk about these things? And they don't want to. So it is a very important point, especially for the people out there that don't want any government at all. If you don't want any government, you better start by looking at the fact that your entire life has been spent as an agent of a government organization that you thought was your name, and it's not. You have your own birth name, but that's not the one you've been recognized as. It's a state organization they created with a similar name. It's not one and the same. It's similar. Like how many Jeff Berwicks are there in the world?
I know there's more than one.
More than one. So if I put 20 Jeff Berwicks in a room and said, hey, Jeff, well, wouldn't you guys want to know which one you just called? Well, which Jeff? Well, I want Jeff Berwick. Well, yeah, that's okay. There's still 20 of us, right? Okay, so it's a similar name, but it's not one and the same as you, and they've duped you your entire life into pledging all property into that state organization and then acting as trustee for it. And we've seen it. We've now seen court records where they're coming right out and they're finally saying, okay, you got us. You finally figured it out. Congratulations. But of course, they won't do that in public, because tomorrow they'd have 30 million people in Canada telling them to fuck off, and which would be the equivalent of a bank run, right? So you would collapse the whole system, and these people have to keep the system afloat, because all hell would break loose. We wouldn't have anarchy. We would have, holy fuck, I don't even know what we would have. We'd have people out in the streets fucking raping and killing each other, which is the opposite of what anarchy is. So
It's possible, yeah, for sure. That's one of the things that we talk about. If the government just went away just right now, it was just gone, there would definitely be a period of transition that would be very messy. And that's why when we talk about getting rid of government, that we probably should be thinking about ways to orderly get through this process. And I think many people doing certain things like what you're doing all helps that. So I'm very interested in what you do. I have seen on the internet, of course, a lot of the people who will make fun of these things like, oh, you're an idiot if you listen to this, because, you know, if you go into a court and you say what Dean's talking about, you're just going to lose and you're an idiot for even listening. How do you respond to people like that?
I love I call that the troll logic, the troll mentality, because troll logic is the opposite of reality and real logic. Whereas if you lose in court, and they just create whatever court records they want and they drag you off to put a show of it, to show people what happens when you dare stand up for yourself, well, then clearly you were wrong, right? The same way that the rape victim is wrong. So if you go out to a bar as a woman and you wear a nice revealing dress and, some guy says, hey, that means that she wants it, and that guy follows her home and rapes her, well, clearly she was in the wrong. That's the troll logic, the troll mentality, and that's just completely ludicrous. I think it's hilarious, but there's no question. That's why, especially over the last few years now, I've been concentrating more on what you just referred to as the transition process, which means, okay, let's just pretend we woke up tomorrow and all these governments were just gone. We went to bed one night, the reptilians showed up, or the Galactic Federation of Light with their Rabo currency, and all the governments were just gone and our wishes were granted. Well, what is there in place to maintain order? Because I hate to say this, but after 30 years of very awful television, there's not much morality in the world right now. 90% of the people are fucking scumbags. They're pieces of shit and fucking scumbags. To be honest with you, right now, we're kind of better off with these people in charge of things until we build something else to take over and replace them, because we would have how many millions of people running around with no morals and no respect for their neighbor whatsoever. We wouldn't have anarchy. We would have fucking hell on earth. And that's a very bad thing. So we need to build what we need to replace these people before we do, or get them to actually start doing what their actual real job is, and just maintaining roads, maintaining hospitals, providing health care, and not what they're doing right now, which is, this bloated corporate government that's just raping and stealing and throwing everybody in jail and deceiving us. And it all starts with educating the people, and we're the ones that have to do that. The government's not going to educate you. The lawyers aren't going to educate you. The politicians aren't going to educate you. The Rockefellers aren't going to educate you. They're too busy stealing from you. We have to educate ourselves, and until we're educated and we're in a position to take over and do what's morally right and treat our brothers with self-respect, we're not going to be any better than now.
Yeah, it's interesting because what the governments have done over the centuries is really, as you pointed out, kind of dumb down the people. They're the same people control the governments, the same people are in the media, and as you said, they put out all this crazy stuff to really make people just not even understand morals. The education system just makes people stupid. Then they, in Canada, and that's why you were actually in jail, they make it so people can't even protect themselves and own guns. So that's why. So if government goes away tomorrow, people have been so they don't even know how to protect themselves anymore. They don't even know what is right or wrong. So we've got to fix this entire mess, and it's not going to be easy. But it's good that you're out there trying to help people do that. So what are your plans right now? I know you just got out. It took you a few days to go through and found out your computer didn't even work anymore. You bought a new computer. What are your plans now? What do you intend to do?
What a mess every time now. Well, short term, I want to get my construction company going again here. I got to get some cash flow going, obviously. For some reason, there's another troll myth out there that I live off of people's donations, and I just take advantage of people, when I've had a construction company for 20 years that pays for everything, that actually pays for me doing this as well. Because if people actually thought that I lived off donations, I'd starve by tomorrow. We don't really get donations, right? And this isn't exactly made my life better. I could be very wealthy and have a construction company and, be another tax-paying public citizen idiot that I refer to those as shitizens, by the way. A public citizen is a shitizen because they're a piece of shit. They're slave class. But so what we're doing is we're trying to, among other things, besides educating people, if we're going to tell people to leave the existing system and become a private individual or a private citizen,
Well, we have to have something there for them to come to, right? Like they can't just say, okay, well, I'm going to walk away from my job tomorrow and I got 4 kids. Like what do I do? Well, that's why we need to be building our own industries and building our own communities and building our own infrastructure and building our own societies, private societies of educated people where, it's not just the general public can come in. Because to be honest with you, if I was to have my own society, it would not be open to the general public. I would not want every average, everyday fucking idiot coming into my society any more than I want the average, everyday citizen coming into my house, because they would treat my house like shit. That's why they're called citizens, right? They shit on your floor, they drink all your beer, they eat all your food, they leave, and they expect you to clean up and then fill the fridge again when they're gone. That's what the average, everyday guy is like. So we don't want that. So we want to start educating people and saying, okay, we have little private societies now. And once we have deemed you to be educated and not ignorant and a morally quasi-virtuous individual, I guess, it's tough to be virtuous, but as long as you're becoming, I guess that's so to speak. But, we only want people of good moral character, some moral fiber to be joining our societies. And that doesn't sound so bad to me, really. They make it sound like we're a bunch of crazy people that want to just destroy everything. But it's like, no, we actually want you to be educated. And we only want other educated people around us, people that have some respect for themselves and others. So it's building these private societies and basically, I don't want to say it's beating these institutions at their own game, but I always tell people, we can do better. Like, okay, let's just say at the end of the day, that I don't have the right to self-determine and create my own government and do this and do that and everything else. At the end of the day, though, I still deserve better than what these people are. We can do better. We can do better than what they're doing. So why don't we do that instead of fighting them and trying to take them down? I'm not doing any of that. I'm saying, no, you know what? I want nothing to do with you. I'm not attacking you. I want nothing to do with you. You go do your thing. I'm going to do mine. I'll create my own society. Me and these other people over here, we're going to build our own communities and start doing our own thing. We just want nothing to do with you. We're not attacking you. In fact, we'd really rather be at peace with you because, well, we got stuff to do. Like we got farms to build and food to grow and stuff to build. So that's what we want to concentrate on. And I don't want to put 1 ounce of my energy or time into anything associated with you. And fighting you is investing time and energy into you, and I don't want to do that. I want to invest all my time and energy into me and to my people and the people that want to do good on this world. So that's kind of where everything's headed, I think.
Yeah, that's great. And you were in jail for Anarchapulco this year. I think you sent some of your people down last year for Anarchapulco, or I don't know if you sent them now, but a bunch of people who are involved with you came down last year. You were in jail this year again for it, but that was really the overall theme of it. We've really changed sort of a lot in the last few years from being very angry about the government, wanting to fight the government, not necessarily violently, but just, wanting to fight it, to just, let's just build our own stuff and build, make all these new solutions that just make the government obsolete. And things like Bitcoin, for example, are one of them. That's entirely private currency that will actually get rid of the central bank. People will actually start using Bitcoin instead of Canadian or US dollars over the next coming years if it continues to grow. And that's great. And that'll take away the power of the government to do all the things it currently does, including war and all kinds of things, and caging people who have never hurt anybody and things like that, building all kinds of new systems. So yeah, I'm totally on board with you on that, and it's cool to hear that that's what you're all about too. So it's going to be interesting. I'm glad you're out. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about your beliefs or what you're doing?
Geez, I don't know. I mean, it's only been 10 days since I've been kind of reacclimating here after, spent another 14 months sitting, watching Jerry Springer and hip hop videos.
Oh, is that what you get to watch?
Which are, oh my God, no, I refuse to do it. It's really sad that again, like the guys that are getting locked up that I'm spending time with, a lot of it there because of like domestic disputes and whatnot. But yeah, like the TV room's crowded with guys that are watching Jerry Springer and just nothing but hip hop videos where it's just some, I guess, like just nothing but cars, drugs, money, and gold jewelry, while some half-naked women dance around, and they're not even listening to the music. You could just put it on mute, and they would still watch the same videos. That's how much they care about the music. But so I mocked that a little bit. But no, I didn't go into the TV room at all. But halfway through this last stint, they did bring a computer in for us to use finally. So it had Pac-Man on it. So then, So then the guys would line up all day just to play Pac-Man on the computer. I can't have a computer because I need to work on court documents or to have a word processing program or something else. I'm not allowed that. but they bring something in for people to play Pac-Man. So just more evidence of just the dumbing down. They just don't want you to learn anything and become less ignorant, because the more ignorant you are, the more you depend on them. But anyways, having said that, geez, I don't know. Since I've been out now, honestly, it's the weirdest thing, but I really think that some of the biggest solutions, I mean, everybody always wants these grandiose plans, like 1 billion of us need to get together and do something, and they're worried about the macro equation, and no one really thinks about the micro equation anymore, which is what can we all do every day ourselves to fix this problem. And so I'm always posting stuff on Facebook about my sunroom. I make a big deal about my sunroom because I'm always growing plants and food in there and stuff like that. And I'm dealing with little micro things that everybody could do at home. And I call it this, change the world by staying home and planting a garden. Like just little things you can do at home that remove yourself from dependency on their system and their groceries and their Monsanto, Frankenfood and everything else, and start doing things at home that benefit you, and getting rid of TV and getting rid of things and raising your kids right. Like worry about the micro, worry about you and your family on the smaller scale. And when you worry about the micro problems, the macro problems take care of themselves. That's just the ultimate conclusion. That's just what happens no matter what when you change your own lifestyle and everybody else does their own. Just their own little part. That's all it takes. It's not going to take 1 billion of us joining together in a giant group, and then acting as a bulldozer to take down these evil people like the Rockefellers and everything. I mean, I understand that people have been angry for a lot of years because we've been deceived, we've been deluded, we've been treated like shit, we don't know what's going on in the courts, we've been beaten, we've been jailed, we've been in prison, like we're thrown in solitary confinement, like our lives destroyed, or them attempting to. They haven't been able to burn me out yet, so they can piss off. But that's what it's going to come down to, is just these, a change in your own personal lifestyles. Again, like everybody's talking about, just like for another example, I'll just ramble on here for a bit, but all these power concerns about, we need all these new energy sources for the future, clean energy. We need to, because look at all these energy demands that are out there, but no one's really addressing the issue of, well, wait a minute, why do we have all these energy demands? And if you look at the way the average American lives and the average person around the industrialized world, our power consumption is staggering and unnecessary. We could cut that to 10%. So we could cut it by 90%. We wouldn't need half of the shit that we're digging up, and destroying the environment for power right now. But really, these evil institutions that everybody hates are providing what you all want. And what you all want is a giant fucking home that nobody in their right mind should ever have or need, so you could fill it with shit you'll never need, and have a video game system in every room, a TV in every room, kids in every room playing their own video game system. Families that just are dysfunctional and don't speak to one another, and they just, like, the power consumption of living the lifestyle that Americans have come to expect is fucking ludicrous. So the problem isn't the powers that were, or the government, or David Rockefeller. He's not in your house telling you to have all this fucking garbage and to be mortgaged to the hilt and have 6 fucking cars, okay? They're not forcing that shit on you. You're doing it. And then you bitch and complain that they're destroying the world, providing what you demand. Well, get rid of the fucking demand, right? I took economics in university. I understood economics very well. When I dropped out, I had 107% average in economics. I even got the bonus question right on my final exams, right? That's one thing I understand very well. You want to take these people down, get rid of the demand for their shit. Quit fucking buying it. You got protesters that occupy Wall Street walking by with fucking Starbucks lattes in their hands. They're protesting against Wall Street, and they're walking by with a $7 fucking latte in their hand. Maybe that's part of the problem. Instead of occupying Wall Street, why don't you go home and quit buying their shit? That'd be the first good step. So just getting people to understand that really, ultimately, they are the problem. Because you're the one creating the demand for all this, and all you need to do is alter your lifestyle completely, and that shit goes away on its own. You don't need to fight it. They can't force you to buy their shit. You are just doing it because you want it. And that's the biggest problem, not these people.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of interesting points. I personally, I'm a minimalist. I've always been one. I don't like owning stuff. I've never understood why you want to own a lot of stuff. I do have a fairly decent sized house now, but I have a fairly big family and 5 dogs now. So, but we use all the house, of course. But I'm with that. And one of the things that you brought up that I've been really understanding a lot more over the last few years is basically what you said was be the change you want to see in the world. And you brought up a great point. We don't need a billion people out protesting. That protesting is pretty useless from what I can tell anyway. Make the change in your own life, and that actually will make the change you want to see in the world, especially if you spread this information and you show people through what you're doing. You're like, hey, look at my life. I grow all my own food, which I'm totally into as well. I actually pretty much vegan right now after my last juice fast. And I'm like, yeah, you barely need anything. You just need some few broccoli, and you live great. You're totally healthy because of it. You can talk about little details on that, but for the most part, a lot of the health issues are from what the people are eating and their lifestyle, just sitting in their car, going to their 8 hours or 10 hours a day of work, usually useless work, and in some sort of office, returning home, feeling like crap, eating a bag of potato chips, getting sick. So make those changes in your own life, and that will actually make the changes in the world. And as you do that, people will be like, holy cow, you lost like 50 pounds and you're looking great, and you look so much happier now that you've kind of changed your whole life. You're not all wrapped up with owning like 4 cars, as you mentioned. You've actually sold them all, and you're like walking, and you've quit your job because you don't even need it, because you don't have all these expenses anymore, and now you're doing stuff you love. I'm going to do that, and other people do that. I'm not saying these are all the exact answers, but these are interesting things to consider, that how we can make those changes ourselves that will actually affect the changes we want to see in the world. So I have a question for you, Dean. You brought up earlier you haven't paid taxes in 20 years, which you shouldn't, because those are just extortion. We just call it what it is, extortion. Do you have any worries or concerns about that, or is there any situation in Canada where they're coming after you on that?
No, I mean, my income tax issues went away a lot of years ago, and even property taxes now are a thing of the past, even though they're trying to come after me again now. But we're kind of working on the final solutions to all this. And again, a lot of this actually has to come back to the whole the state organizations again, and you being a member of the state and a party to the state and owning no property. And what we see as slavery and basically them forcing us to pay all these income taxes and stuff like that really falls in line with what we've been trying to tell people about these corporate persons and you owing to the state, because basically, well, and I'm sure any American has heard the word, enfranchised. You're an enfranchised American, right? They don't want you to be unenfranchised or disenfranchised. They're like, no, I'm an enfranchised American. And really that's what this whole corporate personhood comes down to, because once you're enfranchised, you literally are owner and operator of a franchise of the American government. That's what the birth certificate is. That's the legal person. It's a franchise. You're a franchisee, and you're actually paying franchise fees. That's what income taxes are. And so I could explain this 30 different ways and use different words, and it's the same thing. So once you get out from under that and say, no, I'm not one of your public citizens, I'm not one of your franchisees, I'm a private individual, and I've earned all that money by my own labor that I own because it's never been pledged to the state. And that is a fact, by the way. If you read the Citizenship Act, it says right in there that when you become a citizen of their democracy, you forfeit all property to the state. Everything. You own nothing. You don't own your life. You don't own your labor. You don't own your ideas. You own nothing. It's all state property, and you have to pay fees to use state property, which was formerly your own. So we've been so close to this for years now. We've now got the proof back in all this, that's what is going on in the courts, and that's what the courts operate on as if it's a fact, that we've been so close so many times that we were winning because they would go away because they didn't want to talk about this stuff. But now we got this down to a bit of a science, of course, and I had to be shut up and disappear for a while for non-existent crimes. But I'm not worried about income taxes at all. I'm not worried about anything anymore. Driving privately, removing all my property from the public trust and getting private control of all my property back. We're working on all that right now. But no, I have no concerns about Canada Revenue Agency. They know where I am. They know where my bank accounts are. They know where my houses are. If I owed money and if they could force something on me, they'd be doing it. But I really think that they don't want there to be a public court battle over this, because they're one of the easiest people to beat. They're one of the first ones I ever made go away. And they don't want to make a show of this because, again, now that one of the positive things that has happened with me becoming a little bit notorious on the internet is that if I was to have something factual issued by the courts that I could show people, they're worried, they're terrified of that showing up on the internet, and 10 million people deciding tomorrow that they're going to stop paying in taxes as well. Even if they didn't know how to make the argument, lost in court, guess what? They couldn't even deal with 10 million people stopping filing their income taxes. The whole system was shut down. It wouldn't be a matter of, oh, do they know how to argue this in court? No, you wouldn't need to. There'd be no fucking courts because they couldn't deal with prosecuting 10 million people. And that's the important part. So the same thing with the United States and same thing with everywhere in the world is just if you have enough people do something, they simply don't have the resources to pull their illusion on a mass scale, which is the court system. That's why they just need a couple of sacrificial lambs every once in a while, like the infamous Dean Clifford. Sorry, my throat's been a little clogged up here for a couple of days. I'm not used to not smelling ass 24 hours a day from 30 other guys in a confined space. So, the fresh air is harming me a little bit, I guess. But no, I'm really not worried about them at all. And I mean, we won't get into that any further. Let's just say, no, I'm really not worried about that. If they were going to come after me, they've had 20 years to do it. I've challenged them publicly before. But now that I'm retiring my property to the private side, they don't have any concerns about that anyways, and I'm more than happy to teach anybody how to do it privately.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would love to learn how to do that, and that's been one of the things that you've been critiqued over that I've seen on the internet is, oh, if you do what Dean did, you're going to just end up in jail. Don't do that. So, how can people learn what you've been doing, and if they want to, try to do these things themselves?
Well, it's not like there's a lack of information out there. In fact, the opposite is true now. I think that once there was a sufficient amount of information online that people could help themselves, there was a deluge of information, I think probably from some bad sources just to dilute everything so much that people really couldn't find the truth out there. But fortunately, we're not very hard to find. People that actually want to find us and want to see this through, you can find us. My website's down right now because I just got so tired of trying to run everything while I was in jail that we pulled everything down. And we're going to be back up online here pretty quick here. We're going to get a little site together. And again, anybody who wants to find us can. I don't know how many videos I've got on the internet from over the years. I've never charged for any of this kind of stuff. We disseminate information freely. I believe in that still. We're teaching people. There's people we're helping right now since I got out that have been long-time friends of mine in this movement that we're getting everybody brought up to speed on what's going on. So if people are really serious, they'll know where to contact us. I think the websites, when we relaunch here, is going to be under deanclifford.info. We have the Earth Stewardship Cooperative, which is actually still a real organization that was operating underground while I was in jail. That's just grown and has more projects in the works now since I got out. And that's going to be my private government, that the people that join our organization and society, that's going to be the name we operate under because, again, we're here to be Earth stewards, right? We're saying the definition of a steward is one who leaves something in better condition than when he has started using it. So that's it's all out there. We're easy to find. It's 2017. The interweb is pretty much everywhere. I understand people aren't even really watching TV anymore. Everything's all about these live stream broadcasts on Twitter and stuff like that, and of course shows such as yourself. And there's just no shortage of information out there. It's just making sure the right information gets out there. And honestly, for the people that are non-believers or think that we're wrong because, oh, look, he's wrong, he went to jail. Again, by their logic, all victims are automatically wrong by virtue of the fact that they're the victim. I don't care about those people. I'm not even arguing with those people anymore. I had somebody just this morning trying to argue with me on my position to do with the birth certificate, and I just said, look, I'm not debating this. And they're like, well, no, tell me what, blah, 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 this. And they wanted to argue, and I just said, no, I'm not debate. This is not a debatable point anymore. I'm just, no, if you want to believe what you want, go. I don't want to talk to you, but this is what we're doing. And there's just no more debate on the topic. So the people that want and the people that need help and the people that believe can come and find us anytime. We're here. And it's the beauty of 2017. I mean, holy shit, I've got a laptop here, a tablet in the living room, and my cell phone in the sunroom right now, and all three devices do the same fucking thing. You could live your life on the internet. The information is all out there. We're easy to find. So anybody wanting to start to go down this path towards, if you want to call it freedom, I call it, being a private individual and removing yourself from the state no longer being a state party and getting all your property back so that you're the beneficiary of it, and so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor and your property, which what it means to be a beneficiary, right? And learn all about equity and trust law, which is basically the only thing that we're pushing right now. Everything else is garbage, because I've made every argument there is in court. I've seen what works, I've seen what doesn't, and what doesn't work is exactly what got me in jail this time, despite the fact that I've beaten all these similar charges across Canada previous to my having gone to jail, making the proper arguments in different provinces. So, Dean Clifford, the human guinea pig. But if there's anybody out there right now with more experience for making more fucking stupid arguments in court than me, I'd love to meet them, because they would have better advice than I would.
We should point out what you were in jail for, because some people would be curious about that. You can tell people.
Well, initially, they got a warrant for my arrest for failure to appear for a seatbelt ticket in court. And I'm not even kidding. So they claimed to have had a warrant to come into my house to arrest me, even though they knew I was in Hamilton, Ontario at the time, teaching one of my seminars. So they kicked their way into my beach house, and of course I live out in the middle of nowhere, so I had 2 rifles and 2 shotguns with no license, because, well, I'm not a state party member. So the 2 rifles and the 2 shotguns, they turned into, I think it was originally 40-something charges that they turned that into. And then, of course, I had a small little marijuana grow up in the back shop here, because it's a good hobby for me. I really enjoy it. It's like my sunroom. I love my plants, right? So they didn't like that too much. So I think I was originally up on more than 50 charges. I think I beat 40 of them. And the final 12, they just said, look, we don't give a fuck. You have no rights. You're going to jail. And that's actually right in the transcripts. They just said, we just don't care. If we let you out, if you serve no time and you beat these charges too, well, we know how many people watch you on Facebook. It was brought up in court that, well, Your Honor, this man has more than 30,000 followers in Canada, and you're just like worried that, well, if he wins this, the insinuation was everyone's going to start doing this, because I've beaten them every time up until this point. So they've finally said, they came out and finally admitted it. You have no rights. And that's when I figured out, okay, yeah, like we're right about this. Until we actually go and get our property back from the state, it's still deemed to be state property via the birth certificate and the Citizenship Act, until we actually go and get a formal decree from the courts stating that you've had all your property reinstated. So now that's set us on the last little leg of our journey we've been looking for the last 15 years, was to go and finally get some formal recognition of the fact that we are not state party members anymore. We're private individuals, private citizens, and to get all our property back. But we're out here. Like I say, we're not hard to find.
That's great. I'll be following your story, what you do from here on out. Very interesting. I've enjoyed talking to you. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we finish up?
Geez, I don't know. Just get involved in little bits. Like I keep telling people in lots of shows that I do before. I mean, not everybody may be ready to, to go and file their notice with the government saying, hey, I want all my property back, and I no longer want to be a public citizen. I want to be private, and I never agreed to this. And and because I've got 4 kids, and I've got a job, and I've got a mortgage, and 6 cars, and my new Tesla, battery powered car is on order, and I just can't really risk this right now. So, but there's lots of other things you can do. You don't need to do that. And the stuff that we spoke about again is changing your lifestyle. It's the most important thing you can do. And I can't think of a more noble one than to change your lifestyle in a healthier way. Who doesn't want to be healthier? Who doesn't want to buy and eat proper food? Who doesn't want to spend time with their kids instead of letting them grow up to be video game zombies, right? Who doesn't want a better lifestyle? So start at home and start small, right? And get involved. That's it. Not only am I not asking you to go out and join a massive protest and march all around the country and, get tear gassed and go to jail and stuff like that. I'm actually telling you to not do that. Don't ever do that. You don't ever need to do that. You can make the changes just right at home, right? Don't give them your energy by going and fighting them. Stay home, be at peace, change your lifestyle, and get rid of the demand for the shit that they're providing. And that's all I got to say to people.
That's great advice. And also spread information. That's another way that you can help. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share down below, send this to people, especially people in Canada as well, because they might be able to use some of this information to improve their lives. But that's really where it's at. Very interesting information.
Hey, come find us at our new website when we have it, and get involved and help us. Okay, you don't want to do it, that's fine. I'll do it, right? Like, not everybody can build their own house. I'm a house builder, so people come and find a house builder when they can't do it. So if you can't do it, or you don't want to do it, or you want to be involved in a limited way, just come and help us out and support us. I'll do the fucking work. I don't care, but just help us out, for Christ's sake. You know, Jerry Maguire 101, like, fucking help me to help you if that's the case. But just do something. And just real quick on another note too, is that for 17 months now, I've been a strict vegan myself as well. I toyed with it a little bit for a couple of years off and on, and just finally, I think 3 months before I went back this time into jail, I just said, no, that's it. I'm done with meat, dairy, even rice and potatoes. I don't touch that shit. I just stick to real healthy options now. The whole time I was in jail this last 14 months, I got in the kitchen right away, and for the last 10 months, I was the head cook in the kitchen, you know, cooking for 640 guys. But it gave me unlimited access to all the healthy foods that I wanted, and fresh vegetables in the back and stuff like that, instead of eating the garbage they were paying people. And the first thing that happened was I put on 26 pounds, you know, and lost all the body fat. So I just worked. So basically, for the last 12 months, I've been like in a training camp, I call it. I've been gone for a year, and I've just been working on the whole vegan diet thing and working out and getting healthier. And when I get out of here, I'm just going to be stronger, healthier, and a better sound mind than I've ever been to pick up and continue off and to go crazy with this now, and to be in a much better position than I was when I went in. And yeah, I'll tell you, if you want to eat cheap and you want to eat healthy, try the vegan diet, but learn how to do it right. Don't just jump into it and think that you can eat a lot of the cardboard products they have on the market and you're going to be healthy, because you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah, I actually have a similar experience. I did a juice fast a few weeks ago, and while I was doing it, I had some periods where I felt hungry and thinking about food, and every time it was some sort of a vegetarian sort of a dish that just popped into my mind. So I thought, I think when you're doing those fasts, you kind of listen to your body more, and you're kind of more able to hear what your body wants.
Oh, yes.
And it was telling me vegetarian food. So I've been basically vegetarian, or almost vegan, pretty much vegan, but almost vegan. I have Subway every now and then, the vegetarian thing, and they put cheese on it, but I don't think it's really cheese anyway. But I felt amazing, actually. I was just telling a person the other day, it's only been a few weeks, so it's hard to say, but I've been doing a lot of meditation, yoga. I go for sprints in the morning, runs, a little bit of weights, and with the vegan diet, I've been losing fat and building muscle. It's been great. So I feel really clean, and sort of similar to you, I'm kind of wanting to get myself really healthy, because we have a lot of work to do, and we can't do it if we're just going to be unhealthy, right?
That's exactly it. So it is a healthy way to go. Actually, what changed my life was when I got out of Brandon Correctional, somebody had sent me in the mail, and I wish I could remember who it was. I don't know where the envelope went, but they had actually mailed me a copy of Arnold Ehret's Rational Fasting and the Mucusless Diet Healing System. And I think 7 pages into that, I was a vegan. And it changed my entire life. So I highly recommend people out there, order the book and read it. It will change your life, because it's more than just vegan. Because rice and potatoes are things that most vegans eat, and they're things that nobody should ever eat, right? There's other things that are in your diet, even as a vegan, that you should not be eating. They're just as bad as meat and eggs and some of the other stuff, right? And whatever else you're eating. But rice is another big one. So that was one of the first ones that was gone. So as soon as I started sticking to, the lentils, and unfortunately I had to eat manufactured pasteurized peanut butter with sugar added while I was in jail, because I didn't have access to, of course, all the best stuff, but it just all those kind of alternatives, and it was great. Like I say, I was doing a lot better workouts than the rest of the guys in the gym there, and before you knew it, a lot of them wanted to start eating like I was. They were wondering why I was trimming right up, and why I was 186 pounds with no body fat on me whatsoever, and I haven't been that size since I was 22 years old, right? Like, I was just it was actually great. So it was a good turnaround. So I highly recommend, again, like anything else, just like the law movement, read into it before you do it. Don't just, okay, I'm going to go vegan, and then they're not eating right, and 2 weeks later they're sick and they have no energy, and they're like, oh, this is shit. And I can see why, being a vegan is awful. It's like, well, you're not even doing it right. That's the problem, right? Be educated on a topic before you go and do it. Don't just jump right into it. It's just like fasting. You don't do your first 14-day fast the first time out of the gate. You do a 1-day fast, then you do a 3-day fast, then you do a 5-day fast. You build up to it, and because your body needs time to change over and go, oh, hey, we're not running on gas anymore. Now we're running on diesel, right? Like your body will adapt, but you got to give it time to do that first. And just like the law movement, just get your toes wet. Don't jump in and say, I saw this guy on YouTube yesterday, Dean Clifford, and he says you don't have to pay taxes. So today I quit my job and I did this and I did this and I did this. And it's like, holy fuck, I never said to do that. Like, educate yourself first, bud. So, and Darren just popped in here because I don't think of these things, obviously, when I'm talking. But we do have a contact information I'll give out right now. People do want to get a hold of us. We do have a newsletter that is kind of going out right now intermittently, and it's going to come out more often now that I'm back. And the website is coming, but our email address right now is contact.earthsc@gmail.com if you want to get on the newsletter. So that's contact.earthsc, which is EARTHSC@gmail.com. And of course, that stands for Earth Stewardship Cooperative. And then I think the other one here is we got anybody that does want to help us out. If you like what we're doing, you like what you're hearing, you just want to say, hey, I'd rather give these guys $10 than give it to, Greenpeace, because they do nothing but have people, parachute off of a nuclear reactor, for show for $100 million. But our PayPal, you can find us by our email account, which is deanclifford.earthsc@gmail.com. That's linked to our PayPal. Anybody who wants to help us out, stuff like that. I'm doing it anyways. I'm doing it on my own. But one thing I can mention to people is that once we get really rolling here, and I've already used all my money and all my resources and the people that are involved with this directly to get our community and our society built, if you want to join us after the fact, after we've already done all the hard work, it's going to cost you a lot more, and it's going to be a lot fucking harder than it would be to just get involved at the beginning and help out now when we really need the help. I know most people are like that, though. They don't get involved until the hard work is done and there's less risk for them. That's fine, but just be warned, it's going to be a lot harder down the road.
That's great. Just to follow up on the vegan thing, I was vegan for 2 years, about 15 years ago, and I did it totally wrong. I basically lived on spaghetti with margarine, potato chips, and I was fat and sluggish, and I knew I wasn't doing it right, but since I've been vegan this time, there's actually a great store here in Acapulco, a restaurant called Verde Vegan, and I had them teaching, giving us a lot of food. Then Kenny Palantirano, who's a past Anarchast guest, was actually down here. He's a vegan chef, so he actually came to my house and taught our cook here how to make vegan food, and it's like night and day difference, and I've been feeling great on it. So for people out there, check it out. But like Dean said, all this stuff, whether it's all the the income tax stuff or whatever, or food, whatever, do your research first. Be smart about it. Find out who's giving you the good information, who's not. That's tricky sometimes, of course, but just do your own research and you'll figure it all out. So yeah, I should leave you at that, Dean. I'm sure you got a lot to do. You just got back home, so I'll leave it at that. Unless there's anything else you just wanted to mention before we finish up.
Not really. I would just I could go on ranting for hours, but I'm not going to. So, like I say, the contact information is there, and just get involved. Find a group that you like and you like the message that's out there. And above all else, be nonviolent, guys. You got to be peaceful about this because, of course, as we just discussed, the biggest problem is actually you right now. So don't be mad at these government institutions or perceived government institutions or anybody else that you think is violating your rights in any way, because the biggest problem is that you are ignorant right now. You are ignorant and you are causing the biggest problems. And it's your demand for everything they're providing that's actually causing the problem. So start at home. Don't get mad at everybody else until you fix your own shit. Get your own house in order before you start bitching about what other people are doing. And then get involved, and let's just make this a better place to be on this earth, and just get along with everybody and help make it a better place. That's it, really.
That sounds great, and a great way to end this. So, as I mentioned, if you like this video, like, subscribe, share down below. Spread this information. It's a big part of changing the world, is just letting people know. Most people, as Dean said, are just ignorant. They don't know what they don't know. Get this in front of them, and don't be scared to do it. Of course, don't push it, though, as well. If you just push stuff on people who aren't ready for it, they're just going to push it away. But if you sense that they might be ready to hear some of this information, definitely send them this kind of information. And that's how we change the world. I think we're going to do it. There's lots of people out there doing lots of great stuff, including Dean. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.